I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the relief that that has been out there, and get your thoughts on how people might avail themselves of that, and the advisability of taking advantage of some of it. One of the big ones that no doubt a lot of Canadians have heard about is if you own a home and you have a mortgage, it's the deferral of your mortgage payments.
Mhm.
And I know that every bank has established whatever criteria that they have chosen for people to be eligible to participate in that. Is it a good idea for people to take advantage of the mortgage deferral, Frida?
Each situation is going to be unique, I think, Rob. I certainly, each person's cash flow situation will be different, and their priorities. Definitely look into those programs if you know you're going to have difficulties meeting your payments. Um, you know, Explore that relief that, again, these programs are intended for. What's important, though, for people to understand before committing to a deferral program is that it is exactly that. It is a deferral. It's a postponement of payments that you will have to pay at some point. It is not a forgiveness of debt. It is a temporary measure. And so keep in mind that interest will continue to accrue. And at some point, you're going to have to pay that interest along with those deferred payments. And also understanding that if you're going to make use of this program, really know, well, what's the repayment structure available? How do I pay back the deferral payments without changing my original amortization period? So, my thought is you're either going to have to come up either with a lump sum amount before your renewal term ends, or, somehow make up those payments again to not increase that amortization period. So it doesn't lengthen your mortgage even more. Those are considerations that people need to make, as well as what's the long-term impact.
Yeah, thank you. I think that for a lot of people, there's certainly the immediate relief that comes from not having to actually make that mortgage payment, that might be due April 15th, for example. And I agree with you. I mean, I think if each person should really, really carefully evaluate whether they should take advantage of that. I mean, so the first thing is talk with your lending institution and understand, your eligibility, and then all the rules around it. And my advice to people is, if you can continue to make your mortgage payment, you should continue to make your mortgage payment. Don't. I would suggest that not making the mortgage payment and putting money into a savings account, might not be the best thing to do, because ultimately you do need to pay that mortgage back. And the long-term impact of deferring mortgage payments could be pretty substantial in terms of the incremental interest that people would pay because they didn't make a principal payment today. And so I really would encourage people to be informed about that. And if you can get a revised amortization schedule from your bank and say, okay, show me how much I would pay over the life of the mortgage if I defer 6 payments. And that way I can understand whether or not it's a really good decision for me to do that. Because and I've heard there's some notion that maybe banks will take the payments and just blend them into the rest of the mortgage, and that notion of kind of blending and extending. And it may be a really important option for people to consider if their finances and their cash flow require it. But I just think it's really important to understand whether or not that indeed, just know how much that's actually going to cost you in the long term.